Hello, welcome back to yet another video game review, and today, as you might have read in the title, we have Chrono Trigger, which is a game that I'd heard very positive reviews about online for a few years now, but I put off playing it because I was unsure whether I'd enjoy it or not. Thankfully, that changed when I found myself playing Final Fantasy for the first time last year, and I haven't looked back since, and now I found myself here, reviewing a game that I'd heard so much about, so I'll be sharing my thoughts on the game and also share a review as to whether I think you guys should play it as well if you haven't already. As always, let's go over the history of the game before diving into an analysis of anything else. Chrono Trigger was released in 1995 on the SNES, being developed and published by Square, or probably better known internationally as Squaresoft. Today we know them as Square Enix, but I'll keep on topic and avoid monologuing about the history of the developers, although it's certainly interesting to learn about. Before I continue, I do have to do this just because I'm not exactly an established content creator. Please consider subscribing. It means so much to me and further motivate me to push myself to create the best content I can for you guys. Anyway, I'll get back on topic here. Let's quickly run through the party here. We play as Chrono. We see him as a fearless man who's skilled with katanas. I feel like we don't really get to explore much about Chrono as he's just a typical hero, you know, the brave, fearless type, but he's definitely an interesting protagonist. Luca is one of Chrono's friends who is a mechanical genius wielding a gun in battle, likely one of her inventions. Don't take my word for it though. I guess she's considered the tritagonist, but I wish the game explored more of her dynamic with Chrono. Along with these two is Mal, who is our deuteragonist, who we meet when we attend the Millennial Fair, accidentally bumping into her, and she joins us as we tour the fair. We learn that she is actually the Princess of Guardia and is the descendant of Queen Len? I don't really know, but regardless, that's a story for later on. Somewhere in between this discovery, we meet Frog, appropriately named I know, and well, he's a frog, yep. Great storytelling from me, I know. He's a very skilled swordsman who swore to protect the queen, but given the events of the game, he begins to question his role and his purpose, but with the help of the team, he comes around to his senses and joins a team. Further on, we meet Robo, a robot from the year 2300 AD, and is repaired by Luca as a team searches for a way to get back to the present. Robo is quite an intriguing character. He finds his friends as we try to escape the future, and they tell him that he's dysfunctional, which really gets to Robo, and they end up beating the shit out of him. I mean, how else can I word it? Let's be real here. And Luca has to repair him once again, with Robo deciding to join us on our journey. Eventually, we find our way to Ayla. I won't spoil how we find her, but she's one of the more interesting characters. Unfamiliar with the worlds around her, I thought her inclusion was really neat, as it almost portrays some sort of innocence compared to the rest of the team, while physically being one of the strongest members. I also found that the antagonist here was quite interesting, so I'll quickly talk about them as well. Lavos, again, I don't know how you pronounce these things, whatever. He's what I consider a parasite essentially, leeching off the planet to gather energy, which makes for an interesting antagonist. We learn about Lavos partway through the game, but I thought the way that the game explores the antagonist role here was quite unique. It introduces several characters early on that seem like the main villain, for example, the Chancellor. Fuck the Chancellor, by the way, or Magus. Speaking of Magus, his story is really interesting, and later on in the game when we learn more about him, wow, is that incredible storytelling. Just quickly wanted to mention that I think that Ozzy might be my favourite character in the entire game. He's just so fun to come up against every time, but I think his inclusion in the game just makes it so incredibly fun. There's a really nice balance between heavy storytelling and light-hearted fun, and Ozzy just glides that line perfectly. The story is honestly amazing. Like, I'm trying to think of words to say just because I don't want half of this video to just be the word excellent, but I'm struggling to find any other words to describe this experience. The story heavily revolves around time and travelling throughout history. Probably makes a bit more sense now how we met Robo, Frog, and Ayla. I won't spoil anything else regarding this part of the story as it has major narrative implications, but I thought it was so well managed that everything makes sense. Even characters outside of the playable characters have interesting stories. Their actions and involvement in the main story is really cool, with everything being tied to events in the past or the future, perfectly tying it to the main narrative theme of time travel. Now, I'm going to get the controversial stuff out of the way first. This game is turn-based. I know, how dare it? For some reason that's an issue these days, and people outright refuse to play games just because of this gameplay design. I thankfully enjoy turn-based games. I mean, the original Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X are two of my favourite games, along with last year's Game of the Year, Clear Obscure Expedition 33, being a newer addition to this turn-based list that I've kind of got. Oh, and do I dare say that Persona 4 was also really good? I'll get around to the other games eventually, I promise. I know, I'm really pushing my luck today saying all of this. So, where to begin with my experience? Immediately upon starting the game, you're just waking up to a lively world. As mentioned earlier, there's the Millennial Fair, where we start to meet some of the characters in our party and get introduced to the main plot points. This is well placed, immediately provides a reason to care about the world and a scale to how rich the story is, and it unknowingly foreshadows the adventure the player goes on. The game also has a few animated sequences, which I thought were a neat inclusion, and provided an expanded telling of some parts of the story. Just a side note, having also played the original Final Fantasy Fantasy VII, it's nice to see how the change in these cutscenes developed along with the introduction of 3D characters and environments. The difficulty of the game was well balanced. I found it wasn't too challenging for the most part, but it increased appropriately as you develop your gear and understanding of each character. There is a point in the game where the difficulty increases slightly, but if you're taking your time to fight and level up, there's nothing unbearable. However, if you're the type to just quickly get through everything, then I think the increase will make you reconsider and put some time aside to grind a bit. World design is honestly better than what I thought it would be. Considering there are other timelines in play with this game, with each area being largely unique in design, I thought it was great. I wasn't sure how vast and expansive these areas would be considering the age of the game, but the overall experience of each area is great. There are also a few fun mini-games, with the racing mini-game being my favourite. These also provide an additional reason to care about the world around you and just a nice way to switch up the gameplay experience. Enemy design was fine, there was a decent amount of variation. I didn't think that the enemies were too difficult, with each offering a unique challenge in their own way. My experience with the bosses was more or less the same until you get to the Golem Sisters, that is. Man, that fight really checks whether you're cut out for it or not, and sets the standard for fights moving forward. The true final boss was honestly really challenging, and I think that's a good thing. The understanding of game mechanics, skills, and resource management makes the fight a true culmination of everything you've learned throughout playing the game. Audio design was great, particularly the music. Yeah, that was really good. My favourite piece of music is currently playing in the background, by the way, so enjoy that. I don't think there was too much to comment on for this specific part, as I felt the sound design is something that becomes more expansive as games have become more developed. In terms of sounds on display in this game, I think it's well executed. Nothing sounds too harsh or awkwardly timed or misplaced. I can't comment on voice acting because there isn't any, so maybe that's why this section feels shorter than what I would normally say. Performance wise, the game crashed once, but I don't know what caused it, so I'll say the performance is fine. It's surprisingly adaptable on PC in terms of visuals and resolution, which was appreciated. They still kept that old school charm that makes older video games so special. So, what do I think the game does well? The ATB gauge was well managed, having it tied to speed was a nice choice. The player could find speed capsules along with other ability capsules that would increase a chosen character's stats by 1. I was a big fan of this as it allowed you to invest in your favourite characters and work more freely with your playstyle. To work alongside this, the actual combat was really good. You could either toggle it to either active or wait mode, which allowed for even more challenge or an easier experience to be more strategic about your fights. Combat also included features called techs, which we can think of as skills. These allowed you to team up with your party to deliver special attacks, but there also being powerful triple techs that involved all fighting members in your party. In addition to this, I thought the way that enemies were visible was a welcome addition. This allowed you to decide whether you wanted to actively engage the enemies or sneak your way around them. Of course, I chose to fight them as much as possible. There are also a few side quests that tie nicely to the main story, and I thought these were also fantastic. They do a really good job of world building, further developing bonds between characters, and don't really drag that much. I found that I was able to enjoy what I was doing when completing these side quests, and it was also enjoyable freely exploring every crevice of every timeline to find something that I hadn't already explored that could progress a quest. There was quite a good bit of customization available. Characters had several unique weapons to collect, either in shops or just from exploring the world. There's quite a lot of armor, with some of the later armor having unique properties, and there's also quite a few accessories. These added a specific bonus to the character when equipped, which further pushes the player to explore their customization options. I'll be honest, in all my reviews I try to be fair to the games that I play and praise them for what I think they did well, and I critique them for what I thought was disappointing. And for Chrono Trigger, I have absolutely nothing negative to say. And no, it's a miracle. I don't have any issues with a game, especially for a first playthrough, because my Final Fantasy VII and Nier Automata videos are somewhat biased, so that might not have been as objective as it could have been. But yeah, with everything that I mentioned before, I just couldn't find a single fault with the game, and my experience with this game was just incredible. What do I actually think about the game overall? Well, it's quite simple really. It's a masterpiece, there's no other way to describe it. The game is just simply flawless, and it's one of the only times where I can truly say that about any game. The game takes a considerable amount of time to complete, with my first full playthrough taking over 22 hours. Yeah, I was surprised it took that long as well. I was so absorbed in the game that hours would just pass by, and I genuinely had no idea what was coming next or where the story could go, and at every opportunity the game continued to surprise me. Would I recommend? Yeah. I think I'd actually have a harder time trying to convince people not to play it. I mean, there's so much that this game does perfectly, and I think that if you're open to experiencing this game for the first time, you should absolutely go for it. Even if you don't like turn-based games or older games in general, just give it a go. Genuinely, what's the harm? This game offers so much for the player, with a rich story and world, a great cast of characters, and of course Ozzy. Like, if you're not going to play it for any other reason, at least play it for Ozzy. He's cool, even if he's a villain. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate you sticking around for this long. I'm just going to take this moment to say that I I've really enjoyed every moment creating YouTube videos so far. I'm continuing to try new things and make each video more engaging for you guys, so hopefully that will come to fruition soon enough. If you haven't already, consider liking the video and give me more games to review. You don't have to do this of course, but I would like to build a community of people who just enjoy gaming as a whole, and I want you to be a part of that community, regardless of however long it takes to be established. Thank you again for making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys have a good day, and hopefully I'll see you for the next video.